Göring played a pivotal role in the Beer Hall Putsch of the 9th of November 1923. On that day, whilst Carin was sick in bed, the Nazis attempted to overthrow first the government in Bavaria and then intended to go on the rather long march to Berlin in somewhat a similar manner as Mussolini had done in Italy. However, they were met by government resistance. This involved an exchange of fire which left Hermann seriously injured. Later, in World War II, both Göring and Hitler expected their troops to stand and fight and die if necessary. But in 1923, it was a different story as far as Hitler was concerned. He ran away. Göring couldn't run away. He was wounded in the upper leg. Some thought him dead. Some of his own men found him and carried him to the first door showing a doctor's nameplate. This was in nearby Residenzstrasse. Now, according to his adjutant, Karl Bodenschatz, he reported later that the people on the ground floor threw him out, but there was an elderly Jewish couple upstairs and they took him in. Ilse Ballin, wife of a Jewish furniture dealer, gave Göring first aid and then, helped by a sister, carried him around to the clinic of a friend, Professor Alvin Ritter von Ach. He found the entry and exit wounds dirtied with mud and gravel and did what he could to ease the pain. Carin was informed of what had happened. She collected him and drove him to Partenkirchen. From Partenkirchen they made for the border. However, the frontier guards recognised Hermann Göring and called for the police. The police arrived and accompanied them back to Garmisch, where at the police station he was informed that he was not under arrest, but they were awaiting an arrest warrant. In the meantime, because of his wounds, he could go to a sanatorium of his choice. He gave his word as an officer that he would not escape, but Carin helped him escape anyhow. His word as an officer wasn't worth much. He was placed in the car. They drove off again. There was no one at the German side of the border, and on the Austrian side a false passport was used. From there they drove to a hotel in Seefeld. They were not to return to Germany for 4 years. Carin assisted Hermann get to Innsbruck, Austria, where he was in a great deal of pain from his wounds. They stayed at a hotel owned by Nazi sympathisers. To deaden the pain, he was given morphine in hospital. The wound did not heal and became further complicated, so more morphine was given. This resulted in a morphine addiction which was to accompany him until the Nuremberg trial of major war criminals in 1945. Everyone he came across in Austria and later in Italy that said that he walked badly, and with hindsight, this is the moment when he ceased to have the youthful, sporty appearance that one sees in early photographs, as his weight from then onwards and girth ballooned as if out of control. In the meantime, back in Munich, their expensive car was confiscated by the Bavarian state. In Austria, the couple met Karl Lüdecker, who had already been to Italy twice for Hitler, trying to get assistance from Mussolini, and he indicated that support might be available from the Italian fascists. They also had meetings with characters from the far right in Austria. Even though he fled the scene, Hitler was caught, put on trial, and found guilty of treason and sentenced to 5 years fortress confinement in Landsberg am Lech. At the beginning of April 1924, Carin returned to Germany. She visited Hitler on the 15th of April 1924. Hitler suggested approaching Mussolini for funds. The couple arrived in Venice in the spring of that year at the invitation of Rudolfo Walter, a German who had spent many years in Italy. Walter owned the Hotel Britannia where the Görings took up residence. As a German national, the hotel had been requisitioned by the state, and Walter was keen to have it restored to him. Carin was captivated by the country, the atmosphere, and regretted that she could not communicate with the locals. On the other hand, Hermann knew enough of the language to get by. After a short stay in Venice, the couple headed for Rome. Despite being somewhat short of cash, they booked into the expensive Hotel Eden, although in a few days had to move into the Hotel de Russie, which was somewhat cheaper. Hermann Göring attempted to get a meeting with Mussolini, and it's clear from his correspondence that he was unable to meet him. The Italian fascists had a department for dealing with foreigners and foreign affairs, which was headed by Giuseppe Bastiani. Now, according to Bastiani's memoirs, the Görings came to Rome with Giuseppe Renzetti, who was Mussolini's agent for Germany. Göring tried to negotiate funding, press coverage for the Nazis, and a neutral stance from Italy on reparations in exchange for a future Nazi Germany guaranteeing Italy's acquisitions after World War I, and for no claims being made on the overwhelmingly German-speaking South Tyrol, which had been awarded to Italy after that war. The time that the Görings were in Rome coincided with what became known as the Matteotti affair, the murder by Mussolini's henchmen. The Italian dictator was too busy dealing with the international scandal that this produced, and certainly did not have time to deal with a Swedish-speaking couple representing a minuscule party in Germany, which so far had only succeeded in briefly taking over a drinking establishment at the other end of the country from the capital. The Görings returned to Venice on the 11th of August 1924, probably at the suggestion of Bastiani. In Venice, Göring attempted to use the Italian journalist Leo Negrelli, who wrote for Corriere della Sera, to be an intermediary to Mussolini. Negrelli had interviewed Hitler in October 1923 before the attempted coup d'etat and was known to be friends with Mussolini. Göring had a long correspondence with Negrelli, which got nowhere. Göring bombarded Negrelli with anti-Semitic assertions, which made no impact on the Italian. As far as Negrelli was concerned, the NSDAP was a spent force. Mussolini was interested in supporting German political parties, and that assistance went to the conservative right DNVP. The Nazi Party, a banned fringe organisation, had nothing to offer. 6 years later, in 1931, Göring did meet Mussolini, who by then welcomed him with open arms, but by that time, Carin was too ill to travel with him. Hitler was released from prison in December 1924, an incredibly short time inside when one considers that 4 police officers and bystanders had been killed in the putsch. Added to this was fortress confinement, which sounds quite tough, but in fact it's nothing other than a luxury prison for the upper classes. Carin went to Germany to see if she could get some funds from him, leaving Hermann alone in Venice. On the 16th of February 1925, the ban on the Nazi Party was lifted and it could once more participate in politics. However, by now the Görings were too poor to be interested. Carin sold the house in Munich and shipped their furniture to Sweden. The Görings probably felt that they had outstayed their welcome at the Hotel Britannia, where they had been living rent-free. They had to go. As there was a warrant for his arrest in Germany, they travelled to Sweden via Austria, Czechoslovakia and Poland, arriving in April 1925. On the 22nd of April 1925, Göring sent a letter saying that they were now settled in Stockholm. Göring's health once more deteriorated. Carin spent months nursing Hermann back to health, and the role of the devoted wife was later to be used as a propaganda tool by Goebbels. In Sweden, Hermann Göring took several withdrawal treatments at the expense of his father-in-law. He was discharged from rehab as cured in the autumn of 1925, but soon relapsed once more into taking drugs. However, things changed for the Nazi Party. and it advanced. Göring was one of the stars of the Nazi Party. He had been there at the beginning, and he was able to return to Germany and participate in the political scene. Carin came to Berlin from Sweden to join her and to witness her husband's political career advance. From then on, things turned around. They were now leading an exciting social life, once more becoming part of the establishment elite.